Hello everyone and welcome to our video lesson series for English File 4th edition Intermediate. Whether you're learning English for work, travel or just for fun, this course is designed to help you build confidence and fluency. Today we are diving into Unit 5, Part A. It's called Sporting Superstitions. And today's topic, sports, stories, and the strange things athletes, kind of people who do sport, do for luck. What they do for luck. And first, Part 1 Vocabulary Sport. This lesson starts with a fun quiz about different sports. Then you will learn and practice useful words for talking about sports, like the people, players, referees, the places, courts, pitches, and the actions, win, lose, train, and so on. Part number 2, pronunciation. You'll practice two important English vowel sounds, the sound in horse, O, and the sound in bird, Ö. You'll listen, repeat, and do a short dictation to help your ears and your mouth get better at these sounds. Part number 3, speaking. Do you like sport? You'll interview yourself about sports. Don't worry if you love sport or hate it, there are questions for everyone. Part number 4, reading. Do superstitions work? You'll read an article about the strange routines and lucky charms that famous sports people use. You'll answer a question, can these superstitions really help athletes win? Part number 5, listening. A referee speaks. You'll listen to an interview with a famous football referee. You'll hear about his best and worst moments and his opinions on cheating and fair play in football today. Part number 6, grammar. Past tenses, simple, continuous, perfect. Narrative tenses. You'll review 3 past tenses altogether, then you'll practice using them correctly. Part number 7, speaking. Tell an anecdote. Then it will be your turn to tell a story. You'll prepare and tell a short, true anecdote about a personal experience. Maybe something funny, surprising, or scary that happened to you. And finally, writing. A story about a bad journey. Finally, we are going to look at how to write a story. You'll read a model about a terrible car journey, learn useful linking words like when, however, because, and so on, and then plan your own short story about a difficult trip. And by the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to talk and write about sports, understand stories in the past, and share your own experiences much more effectively. Let's get started. Part 1 Vocabulary Sport. Initial task. In teams, race to answer all the questions. Shout when you cross the finish line. Look, since you're doing tasks without any teams, of course you have to do it yourself. Just think of the possible answers. They are just sports names. Write them down and then find out whether you were right or wrong. If you can't get any answers right, don't worry about this. Actually, there aren't many people who are really interested in sport, so it's okay. Let me read them out loud. 1. In which sport can you do the butterfly? 2. In which sport is there a shot called a slam dunk? 3. In which sport is the person who throws the ball called the pitcher? 4. In which sport are there 2 teams of 15 people and a ball that isn't round? 5. In which sport do you hit the ball over a net on a table? 7. In which sport are there 2 teams of 6 who play on ice? 8. In which sport are there 4 main tournaments in Melbourne, Paris, London, and New York? 9. In which sport can you do different activities? For example, running, high jump, javelin, etc. And finally, 10. In which sport have Brazil won more World Cups than any other country? Now think of the answers, then check yourself.
(5.1) 1. You can do the butterfly in swimming. 2.
There's a shot called a slam dunk in basketball.
3. The person who throws the ball in baseball is called the pitcher. 4.
There are 2 teams of 15 people and a ball that isn't round in rugby.
5. You hit the ball over a net on a table in table tennis or ping pong. 6.
Players walk about 8 kilometres and never run during a game of golf.
7. There are 2 teams of 6 who play on ice in ice hockey. 8.
There are 4 main tennis tournaments in the world, in Melbourne, Paris, London and New York.
9. You can do different activities, for example, running, high jump or javelin, in athletics. 10.
Brazil have won more World Cups than any other country in football.
It's time to work with vocabulary. It will help you a lot during today's lesson. We'll start with people and places. Part A. Match the words and photos. There are 9 photos and 9 words. They are captain, coach, fans, players, referee, umpire, spectators, the crowd, sports hall, stadium, and team. Try to match these to the photos. Think of what they could mean, then check and learn.
(5.2) Sport. 1. People and places. B. 3.
Captain,
7. Coach. 1.
fans,
5. Players. 2.
referee, umpire,
9. Spectators. The crowd. 6.
sports hall,
8. Stadium. 4.
team,
Part C. Match the sports and places. This one is a bit more difficult, as these words aren't frequent enough. You don't see them often. But anyway, let's try. Socket, course, court, pitch, pool, slope, track. And we have tennis, basketball, court. It's been already done for you. Speaking of football, rugby, hockey, swimming, diving, athletics, Formula 1, motorcycling, golf, ski, you do it yourself. Again, if you find it difficult, don't worry. Just go to the answer section and just learn them.
(5.3) D. 1.
tennis court, basketball court.
2. Football pitch, rugby pitch, hockey pitch. 3.
Swimming pool, diving pool.
4. Athletics track. 5.
Formula One circuit, motorcycling circuit.
6. Golf course. 7.
Ski slope.
Part 2. Verbs. This one, I think let's do it together. I have to give you some explanations. Let's read about win and beat first. Win and beat. You win a match, competition, medal, or trophy. You beat another team or person. For example, PSG beat Chelsea. It can be understood like this. You win something, but beat someone. So don't say to your friend, I'm going to win you. No, it's not correct. Say, I'm going to beat you, or I'm going to win the match or the game, etc. Moving on. A. Complete with the past tense and past participles. Beat, win, lose, and draw. We have here 4 verbs. Let's have a look at their forms. Beat, beat, beaten. Win, won, won. Lose, lost, lost. Draw, drew, drawn. By the way, you can ask, what is it? In sports, the verb draw, drew, drawn, means a competition ends with an equal score. No one wins and no one loses. Some examples. The 2 teams often draw. They are very equal. Yesterday, Liverpool drew with Manchester United. The final score was 1-1 or 1-1. And the chess match was drawn after 6 hours. Or there is another way to say it. The game ended in a draw. You can use both versions. Part B. Complete the verb column with the past tense of a verb from A. I will just read the ready answers. 1. Spain drew with Brazil 2-2. 2. Milan beat Chelsea 3-0. 3. Milan lost the match 3-0. 4. The Chicago Bulls lost 78-91 to the Boston Celtics. I think I should add a couple of things. First of all, how to pronounce equal scores. For scores like 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, etc., we almost always kind of say them as 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, and so on. But there is another way which is commonly used when we add all after a number. The score is 1-1. A bit more literal, focuses on the numbers, but you can say the score is 1-1. It's more conversational. And some examples. At halftime, it's 2-2. The score is 2-2. They equalized in the last minute and make it 3-3. So the final score became 3-3. After 90 minutes, the teams finished 1-0. The match ended 1-1 or 1-0. So to summarize, for equal scores, you can use or you can say both 1-1, 2-2, 1-0, 2-0. Both are correct and common. You might hear 2-0 more often in live commentary and 2-2 when reading a formal result. And there is another thing. Why is 0 sometimes called nil? In short, nil comes from Latin and means nothing. It's been used in British English for centuries to mean 0, especially in sports and scores. Let's see the difference, yeah? Nil is common in British English, UK, Australia, etc. For example, Chelsea beat Arsenal 2-0. 0 is common in American English. For example, Crocodiles won 3-0. It's a team. Nothing is also used, especially in the US, but less formally. For example, they are up 3-0, but actually it's difficult to remember for learners of English. So, nil just sounds more formal and sporty in British-influenced contexts. But what to do for a 0-0 draw? In this case, you can say the game was 0-0, British English, or the game was 0-0, American English. Now, make some notes and work with this vocabulary. Exercise D. Complete the verb column with a word from the list. Do, get fit, get injured, go, kick, score, throw, train. Number 1 has been already done for you. Professional sports people have to train every day. What about the others? Can you complete it yourself? Then check your IDs and learn these words.
Five point five. E. 1.
Professional sports people have to train every day.
2.
Don't play tennis on a wet court. You might get injured.
3. A footballer has to try to kick the ball into the goal. 4.
I've started going to the gym because I want to get fit.
5.
Our new striker is going to score a lot of goals.
6.
Would you like to go swimming this afternoon?
7.
My brothers do yoga and Tai Chi.
8.
In basketball, players throw the ball to each other.
Next part, phrasal verbs, your favorite ones, yeah? A. Match the highlighted phrasal verbs to their meanings A to D. It's important to warm up before you do any exercise. 2. My daughter works out every afternoon. 3. The player got a red card and was sent off. 4. My team was knocked out in the semifinals. And there are some meanings. A. Was eliminated. B. Do exercise usually at a gym. C. Was told to leave the pitch, court, etc. And D. Do light exercise to get ready for a match, for example. Okay, try to do it, then listen and check.
Five point 6. 3. Phrasal verbs. 1. D.
Warm up means do light exercise to get ready for a match, for example.
2. B.
Work out means do exercise, usually at a gym.
3. C.
Was sent off means was told to leave the pitch, court, etc.
4. A.
Was knocked out means was eliminated.
Now it's time to check what you have learned. there are different words and phrases related to sport. Check yourself, do this, and try to remember as many as you can. Good luck with this exercise! One. The leader of a sports team. Captain. 2. It's a track used for Formula 1 racing or motorcycling. Circuit. 3. You can play tennis and basketball on this. Court. 4. The people who go and watch a sports event. Spectators. 5. It's a sport you can play on ice or grass. Hockey. 6. Before you do any kind of exercise, it's very important to do this. Warm up. 7. When this happens to you, you may have to see a doctor. Get injured. 8. Camp Nou, the Maracana, and Old Trafford are all famous examples of this type of building. Stadium. 9. It's a verb which describes when two teams have the same score at the end of a match. Draw. 10. It's the person who shows a red card in a football match. Referee. 11. It's a sport where you jump headfirst into a pool. Diving. 12. In this sport, you go around a course of 9 or 18 holes. Golf. 13. It's a phrasal verb, which means go to a gym or do exercise. Work out. 14. It is what professional athletes have to do every day. Train. 15. It's the opposite of win. Lose. 16. There are 30 on the pitch in a rugby match, but only 22 in a football match. Players. 17. It means to hit, for example, a ball with your foot. Kick. 18. It's the name of the person who gives instructions to the members of a team, but who doesn't play. Coach. 19. It's a person who supports a team. Fan. 20. It's where you play indoor sports. Sports hall. Part 2. Pronunciation. Part A. First, look at the two pictures and sounds at the top. Horse. This is a sound O. It's a long, round sound like in all or caught. And bird. This is a sound O. It's a long sound you make in the middle of your mouth like in heard or world or work and so on. This sound, I think, or you're familiar with this sound. Then look at the list of words. Your job is to sort them. So put each word in the horse column or the bird column. But be careful, the spelling OR can be tricky. Sometimes OR makes the horse sound like in sport, sometimes it makes the bird sound, especially after W, like in world. Then listen, repeat, and check.
5.7.
horse, oar, ball, court, course, court, draw, fort, score, sport, warm up,
bird, circuit, hurt, serve, shirt, work out, world, worse.
Part C. Listen and write 6 sentences, then practice saying them while checking.
5.8. 1.
I hurt myself when I caught the ball.
2.
Her serves worse than the other girls.
3.
It was a draw. The score was 4-all.
4.
It's the worst sport in the world.
5.
We warmed up on the court.
6.
They wore red shirts and white shorts.
5.8. 1.
I hurt myself when I caught the ball.
2.
Her serves worse than the other girls.
3.
It was a draw. The score was 4-all.
4.
It's the worst sport in the world.
5.
We warmed up on the court.
6.
They wore red shirts and white shorts.
Finally, part 3. Speaking, interview yourself. The initial task was to choose yes or no and then answer only your column of questions. I think I need to answer all of them just to give you some ideas. So prepare for a long sports journey with me. Let's dive in. Look, I can't say that I truly enjoy sport, but I'll start with the yes column. So question 1. What sport or what sports do you do? Unfortunately, I don't do any particular sports kind of right now. I exercise a lot, but you know that's not really a sport. I'll talk about it later. While answering this question, remember that you can use words like play, go, and do. For example, you can say, I play basketball or football. I go swimming, or I go skiing, or I do athletics, or I do yoga. We talked about this in the pre-intermediate course, by the way. Okay, number 2. How often do you do sport? Actually, I exercise every 2 days. I think that's quite often. I sometimes take extra days off when I feel my body needs to rest. Anyway, I try to stick to it. A day to exercise, a day to rest, a day to exercise, and then a day to rest. Something like that. I hope you now can answer how often questions. You can use adverbs of frequency, like often, usually, never, hardly ever, sometimes, and so on. Or you can use expressions of frequency, once a week, twice a month, 3 times a week, and so on. For example, you can say, I have football training twice a week, on Mondays and Thursdays. Something like that. Number 3. Have you ever won a cup or a trophy? Yes, I once participated in a parkour competition. I won little money and a chocolate bar or something like that. Actually, I don't remember exactly what it was. But it wasn't a real cup or trophy, just childish things. But anyway, I was happy to get it. Okay, 4. Have you ever been injured doing sport? Yes, I have a lot. I hope you know what parkour is. It's considered a kind of extreme sport. I think during that period I got at least hundreds of small injuries, and the most serious one was when I broke my big toe, and I couldn't walk properly for 3 months after that. But I used that time to gain, some muscle strength. So, actually, to be injured, it's not a pleasant experience. So, if you have something to say, feel free. 5. Okay. Do you prefer doing sport or watching sport? I'll be honest, I find watching sport boring. I can't understand people who can spend a whole evening watching football or hockey. I prefer doing sport. 6. How many hours do you spend a week watching sport on TV or following it online? 0 hours. As I said earlier, I'm not into watching and following sport. It's not my thing. I'm sorry. Number 7. Do you go to watch a local sports team? I know we have a couple of local football teams, kind of a hockey team, and even a really strong handball team, but who cares? Okay, they have won lots of trophies and cups. I don't have actually the time or the interest to go and watch them play or perform. Okay, and number 8. What's the most exciting sports event you have been to? I haven't been to many, maybe once or twice when our school made us go to such events because they needed a crowd. The local sports teams would feel really demotivated or frustrated if they didn't see any fans. Actually, I don't have anything exciting to tell you. I've never been to a really exciting sports event, with a big crowd of fans and amazing atmosphere. No. Okay, just in case, let's do the other column. No. Number 1. What sports did you have to do at school? Do you have to or did you have to do at school? It depends on your situation. Okay, as a student, I had to attend PE classes, physical education classes, and we used to play football, basketball, and volleyball. I think those 3 are kind of the main ones for PE lessons or classes. Number 2, do you enjoy them or did you enjoy them? No, I didn't. I don't like team sports. I don't like working in a team, so it was difficult. I preferred something that depends only on me, where I don't have to worry about how my teammates perform. And there was a serious fear or pressure when you're afraid of failing, something. And because you don't want the others to think they didn't win because of you. That's stressful. Number 3. Do you do any kind of exercise? Finally, my question. Finally, yes, I do. Look, exercise means any kind of physical activity. It can be working out, walking, taking your dog for a walk, doing yoga, or morning gymnastics. Maybe you don't like sports, but physical activities, as you know, they are necessary for us. For example, I work out with kettlebells. They are they're a wonderful piece of sports equipment. I really like them, and my life has changed completely since I discovered they existed. I don't do it professionally, of course, like preparing for competitions. No, it's not my thing. I just use them to stay fit and healthy. Next is number 4. Do you think you're fit? Would you like to get fitter? Recently, I've gotten much fitter than I used to be, but it's not enough. And of course, I'd like to get fitter. But it's mostly about diet. It's more about what you eat and then what kind of exercise you do. And I'm currently working on it because I've noticed one thing. If you sleep well, eat well, and exercise enough, you feel great. You feel less stressed. And I'm happy that I discovered that. Okay, number 5. Do your family and friends like sport? It depends. For example, my father hates sport. He thinks it's a waste of health. My mother kind of used to be an athlete. she gave up fencing. It's a sport where you fight with swords. Tish, tish, tish. Because her sports school unfortunately closed down. My brother used to play football and do parkour, but now he isn't doing anything of this sort, of course. And my wife doesn't like sport. As for friends, they do exercise sometimes, but I can't say they are fans. So, something like that. Number 6. Are there any sports you don't mind watching on TV? It's hard to say. They're all boring, but okay, maybe gymnastics. It's not parkour, of course, but at least it has something to do with it, so I can watch it. And figure skating, maybe. It's not bad. Number 7. What sports do you hate watching on TV? All other kinds, football mostly. I'm sorry for football fans, but it's just not for me. I hate watching sport on TV in general. I don't know, there are so many other things to watch. I just can't. Okay. And number 8. Have you ever found a sporting event exciting? No. My short answer is no. So, I like sport, I like doing it, but I can't say that I'm a sports fan. Okay, next are 3 questions that don't depend on which column you choose. You have to answer them anyway. Number 1. Do you think that there are good sports facilities in your town? Oh, what does sports facilities mean? Yeah, you're wondering right now. Actually, sports facilities are all the places, buildings, and equipment that people use to do sports or physical exercise. Kind of think of the word facility. It means something like a building or service that is provided for a particular purpose. So, sports facilities are things provided for doing sports. What is included? Sports facilities can be divided into 3 main categories. Kind of outdoor, for example, a football pitch, a tennis court, a running track, a skate park, a golf course. Indoor, a swimming pool, a sports hall, gymnasium, a climbing wall, a boxing ring, a yoga studio. And some kind of big buildings, a stadium for big events like football, an arena, something like that. And speaking of my town, there are some facilities, but they are mainly for the very popular spots. We have some gyms, swimming pools, and football pitches. But if you want to do something less popular, my town doesn't have much for that. So, something like that. Number 2. Do you think physical education PE should be optional or compulsory at school? Compulsory, everyone must do it. Optional, you can choose to do it or not to do it. Okay, look, I believe it must be compulsory. Yes, I used to hate it, and many students hate it, but it's important. For many young people, there aren't any other ways to make sure they do regular physical activities or exercise. So, attending PE classes, I think it's the only way. And number 3, do you think there is too much or not enough sport on TV? I don't really watch TV, so I will leave this question to you. Okay, so now it's your turn to speak. As a challenge, try to say a couple of sentences for each question here. Good luck! Part reading. What to do? Look at the 4 pictures and read the phrases. Cross your fingers. Touch wood. In American English, people often say knock on wood. Wear lucky clothes. And carry a lucky charm. And for each one discuss, do you ever do this? And if yes, no, sometimes. When do you do it? Give an example, situation. And why do you think people do it? And there is one thing you can ask, what is a lucky charm? A lucky charm is a small object that a person carries or keeps because they believe it brings good luck or protects them for bad luck. It is a type of superstition. And it is personal. So what is lucky for one person might be normal for another. And the luck comes from the belief and the feeling it gives the person, not from the object itself, of course. There are some common examples of lucky charms. For example, a special coin, a piece of jewelry, a ring, a necklace, a small toy or figure, a stone or crystal, or a photo can be so. So how to talk about it? There are some examples. You can say, my grandfather gave me this coin. It's my lucky charm. I always have it in my pocket during important meetings. She never travels without her lucky charm, a small teddy bear. Okay, now discuss the 4 pictures. Discuss it with yourself. Remember, there are no right or wrong answers. Just share your experiences and ideas. Finally, let's read something. There's a question in the title of the article. Do lucky socks really work? And there is a funny cartoon attached. Actually, listen and read. Try to get the main idea and then by summarizing everything you've read, answer this question in the title. I hope it will be easy. Good luck. Do lucky socks really work? 1. Sport has always been full of superstitions, even for the best athletes in the world. Long-distance runner Mo Farah always shaves his head before a race. Judo star Kyle Harrison always wears the lucky socks that were a gift from her grandmother. Footballer Cristiano Ronaldo always steps onto the pitch with his right foot first. And tennis legend Serena Williams always bounces the ball 5 times before a first serve and twice before a second serve. 2. Do actions like these have any real effect on sports results? According to a study at the University of Cologne, it seems that they can increase confidence and a sense of control, which might help athletes. The study showed that people who were given a golf ball that they were told was lucky played better than those who used a normal ball. And it isn't just sports. In another experiment, people who were allowed to carry their lucky charm performed better at memory tests than people without one. The researchers concluded that superstitions make people feel more confident, which makes them perform better. 3. Superstitions may also have a positive physical effect. Dan Abrahams, a sports psychologist, says that sporting rituals can cause the release of adrenaline and other chemicals which help the athlete to focus better. 4. Most psychologists, however, say that superstitions can be bad as well as good. Abrahams tells the story of a professional football club where 2 players had the same superstition. They both had to be the last person to leave the changing room before the game. They couldn't agree how to solve the problem, and it had a really negative effect on them and on the team. And what happens if you sit down to take an exam and realize you've forgotten your lucky pen? So the answer is yes, because they increase confidence and control. And the article proves this in 2 simple ways. So it gives scientific evidence first, and it explains what happens in your body while doing such things. So superstitions, they don't work by magic, they work psychologically, by boosting confidence, and physically by releasing helpful chemicals. That's how they increase an athlete's confidence and control. Something like that. And now let's take a look at vocabulary from the article before you dive into the second task and in the third task. So they are lucky. Superstitious. Step onto. Bounce the ball. A serve. Confidence. Lucky charm. Rituals. Calls. The changing room. So, just for a case, work with this vocabulary. Part C. Match paragraphs 1 to 4 to topics AD. The physical effects of superstitions, examples of sporting superstitions, the disadvantages of superstitions, the psychological effects of superstitions. Okay, you have 4 paragraphs and 4 topics. It's the easiest task ever, I think. Try to do it, then check your answer. Part D. Read the article again. Explain why the following examples are mentioned. Paragraph 1. Cristiano Ronaldo's right foot and Serena Williams' ball. Paragraph 2. Lucky golf balls and lucky charms. Paragraph 3. Adrenaline and other chemicals. Paragraph 4. 2 players with the same superstition. Okay, your task, you need to try to explain why the author mentions each of these examples in the article. Do not just describe the example, explain its purpose. Why? Why are we doing this, by the way? This helps you understand how a good text is built. Authors use examples not just for fun, but to support, prove, or illustrate their main ideas. So good luck with this task. Do lucky socks really work? 1. Sport has always been full of superstitions, even for the best athletes in the world. Long-distance runner Mo Farah always shaves his head before a race. Judo star Kyle Harrison always wears the lucky socks that were a gift from her grandmother. Footballer Cristiano Ronaldo always steps onto the pitch with his right foot first. And tennis legend Serena Williams always bounces the ball 5 times before a first serve and twice before a second serve. 2. Do actions like these have any real effect on sports results? According to a study at the University of Cologne, it seems that they can increase confidence and a sense of control, which might help athletes. The study showed that people who were given a golf ball that they were told was lucky played better than those who used a normal ball. And it isn't just sports. In another experiment, people who were allowed to carry their lucky charm performed better at memory tests than people without one. The researchers concluded that superstitions make people feel more confident, which makes them perform better. 3. Superstitions may also have a positive physical effect. Dan Abrahams, a sports psychologist, says that sporting rituals can cause the release of adrenaline and other chemicals which help the athlete to focus better. 4. Most psychologists, however, say that superstitions can be bad as well as good. Abrahams tells the story of a professional football club where 2 players had the same superstition. They both had to be the last person to leave the changing room before the game. They couldn't agree how to solve the problem, and it had a really negative effect on them and on the team. And what happens if you sit down to take an exam and realize you've forgotten your lucky pen? Now let's take a look at the answers. Paragraph 1. Cristiano Ronaldo's right foot and Serena Williams' ball. They are examples of famous sports people's superstitions. You know, the first paragraph's job is to introduce a topic. The main idea is top athletes often have superstitions. Examples are the best way to make a general idea specific and interesting. So, paragraph 2. Lucky golf balls and lucky charms. They were used in a study at the University of Cologne to show that people perform better when they have lucky things. You know, the second paragraph's main point is to give a reason or proof for why superstitions work. It moves from what they have them to why they might help. A scientific study is perfect evidence for this. Paragraph 3. Adrenaline and other chemicals. Adrenaline and other chemicals are produced as a result of sporting rituals, helping athletes to focus better. Paragraph 3 digs deeper into the why. From paragraph 2, it explains the biological mechanism, what actually happens inside the body. And this makes the argument stronger by moving from psychology, confidence, to physical science, chemicals. And paragraph 4. Two players with the same superstition. This is an example of how superstitions can cause problems. Both players wanted to be the last person, to leave the changing room. The final paragraph adds balance to the article. It shows that there can be a downside. After explaining the benefits, the author presents a potential negative effect to give a complete picture. Okay, now I think I'm going to translate this article for you just for a case. Ну и теперь быстренько переведем данную статью. Первый абзац. Спорт всегда был полон суеверий, даже для самых лучших спортсменов или атлетов в мире. Бегун на длинной дистанции Мо Фара всегда получается shave his head, это имеется в виду стричься на лысо перед забегом, перед гонкой, перед забегом. Звезда дзюдо Кайла Харрисон всегда носит, можно так сказать, счастливые носки, или, нет, не счастливые носки, удачливые носки, или носки на удачу, которые были подарком от ее бабушки. Футболист Криштиану Рональдо всегда наступает на поле с его правой ногой, точнее, наступает на поле всегда правой ногой сначала. И теннисная легенда Серена Уильямс всегда, вот глагол у нас bounce, это чеканить, то есть когда мячик ударяется о землю и возвращается назад, то есть чеканит мячик 5 раз перед первой подачей и 2 раза перед второй. Абзац 2. А вот такие действия по типу такого имеют ли реальный эффект на спортивные результаты? Ссылаясь на исследования в университете Кёльна, это кажется, что они могут увеличить уверенность и чувство контроля, которые могут помочь спортсменам. Это исследование показало, что люди, которым дали мячик для гольфа, и им сказали, то есть they were told, это не они сказали, это им сказали, что этот мячик был таким вот удачливым, то есть приносящий удачу. То есть вот эти люди с удачливым мячиком играли лучше, чем те, которые использовали обычный мячик. И это не только про спорты. В другом эксперименте люди, которым позволили, то есть carry, это принести или иметь при себе их талисман, lucky charm, надеюсь, догадались, это талисман, то есть performed better, это имеется в виду, показали лучшие результаты, то есть или себя проявили лучше, в, по сути, тестах на память, чем люди без талисмана. Исследователи, то есть сделали такой вывод, conclude это сделать вывод, что суеверия могут делать людей более уверенными, что позволяет им лучше показывать результаты. То есть perform имеется в виду выступать, показывать результаты или что-то делать лучше. Теперь третий абзац. Суеверия могут также иметь позитивный физический эффект. Дэн Абрахамс, спортивный психолог, говорит, что спортивные ритуалы могут вызвать как бы выпуск. Релиз — это выпуск адреналина и других химических веществ или chemicals, ну или химикатов, нет, не химикатов, то есть адреналин и другие химические вещи, которые помогают спортсмену сфокусироваться лучше или сконцентрироваться лучше. Дальше 4. Большинство психологов, однако, говорит, что суеверия могут быть плохими, так же, как и хорошими. То есть здесь и есть и плохая сторона. Абрахамс рассказывает историю профессионального футбольного клуба, где два игрока имели одно и то же суеверие. Они оба, то есть им обам надо было быть последним человеком, который покинет раздевалку перед игрой. Они так и не смогли согласиться, как решить эту проблему. И это, то есть, произвело очень негативный эффект на них и на команду. А что тогда случится, если вы вдруг, то есть, сядете, чтобы написать экзамен, и осознаете, что вы забыли свою, ручку, которую вы таскаете на удачу, или удачную ручку, удачливую ручку. Так, вот как-то так, вот такая вот статья. Относительно простая. Ну что ж, давайте двигаться дальше. Okay, there is a discussion. Do you know of any other sports players who are superstitious? What do they do? Do you have any superstitions, for example, when you're playing or watching sport, or when you do an exam, or when you travel? Okay, look, I'm a bit ignorant. It means I know nothing about top sport athletes. My knowledge is very, very low in terms of athletes, teams, cups, and so on. So I'll leave this question to you. And speaking of the second question, I used to have a lot of superstitions when I was a kid. And when I wasn't interested in science. Yeah, I used to get up, stepping only on the right foot. Then I used to believe that it was a bad idea to look at the mirror before going to bed, and so on. But now I don't have any, actually. So, okay, what about you? Part 5. Listening. A. Do you think being a football referee is a difficult job? Why? Why not? Useful sentence starters for your opinion. I think it is difficult because it isn't difficult because the main reason is that, for example, imagine on the one hand, but on the other hand, and so on. Okay, let me answer it. But I think I will keep it short. I think every job is difficult in its own way. Referee isn't an exception. I think it's difficult because you have to think quickly and there is a lot of pressure, psychological pressure. Your mistake can be the last one. If people aren't happy with you, you'll be fired. So, what do you think of this? Now, before we dive into listening, I want you to learn or revise the following vocabulary. Okay. 1. Make someone want something. To influence someone. To be attracted by. To be frustrated. In most cases, to pick something. The home team. Hit me. To drop. To cheat, cheating. To pretend. To fall. To make right decisions. Interpretation of the rules. To exist. Exceptions. Apart from. To admire. And behavior. Moving on, you're going to listen to an interview with an ex-Champions League football referee from Spain. Listen to part 1 and choose A, B, or C. 1. Why did he want to become a referee? His father was a referee. He liked sports but wasn't good at it. He always liked the idea. 2. What was the most exciting match he ever refereed? His first professional match? He can't choose just one. Real Madrid against Barcelona. 3. The worst experience he ever had as a referee was when a player, a woman, or a child attacked him. 4. Why does he think there is more cheating in football today? Because football is big business, because the referees are worse, because footballers are better at cheating. 5. How does he say footballers often cheat? They fall over when no one has touched them. They accept money to lose matches. They touch the ball with their hands. Look, I think the task is very, very clear. Listen, analyze what you heard, and choose the correct option. Then check yourself.
5.9. Part 1.
What made you want to become a referee?
Mi padre fue árbitro, pero eso no me influenció.
My father was a referee, but that didn't influence me. In fact, the opposite, because I saw all the problems that he had as a referee. But as a child, I was always attracted by the idea. And at school, I used to referee all kinds of sports. Basketball, handball, volleyball, and of course football. I was invited to join the Referees Federation when I was only 14 years old.
Were you good at sport yourself?
Yes, I was a very good handball player. People often think that referees become referees because they're frustrated sportsmen. But this is just not true in most cases, in my experience.
What was the most exciting match you ever refereed?
It's difficult to choose one match as the most exciting, but I remember some of the Real Madrid-Barcelona matches. For example, the first one I ever refereed. The atmosphere was incredible in the stadium. But really, it's impossible to pick just one. There have been so many.
What was the worst experience you ever had as a referee?
The worst? Well, that was something that happened very early in my career. I was only 16, and I was refereeing a match in a town in Spain, and the home team lost. After the match, I was attacked and injured by the players of the home team and by the spectators. After all these years, I can still remember a mother who had a little baby in her arms who was trying to hit me. She was so angry with me that she nearly dropped her baby. That was my worst moment, and it nearly made me stop being a referee.
Do you think that there's more cheating in football than in the past?
Yes, I think so.
Why?
I think it's because there's so much money in football today that it's become much more important to win. Also, football is much faster than it used to be, so it's much more difficult for referees to detect cheating.
How do footballers cheat?
Oh, there are many ways. But for me, the worst thing in football today is what we call simulation. Simulation is when a player pretends to have been fouled when in fact he hasn't. For example, sometimes a player falls over in the penalty area, when in fact nobody has touched him. And this can result in the referee giving a penalty when it wasn't a penalty. In my opinion, when a player does this, he's cheating not only the referee, not only the players of the other team, but also the spectators, because spectators pay money to see a fair contest.
Let's take a look at the answers. Number 1. Why did he want to become a referee? The answer is C. He always liked the idea. Why? Because he says his father was a referee, but that didn't influence me. In fact, the opposite. His real reason is I was always attracted by the idea. so he just liked the idea of being a referee. Number 2. What was the most exciting match he ever refereed? Correct answer B. He can't choose just one. Why? He says it's difficult to choose one match as the most exciting. But really, it's impossible to pick just one. There have been so many. He gives an example, Real Madrid-Barcelona, but his main point is that he cannot select a single most exciting match. Number 3. The worst experience he ever had as a referee was when, correct answer, a woman attacked him. Why? He describes being attacked by players and spectators after a match. Then he gives a specific memorable detail. I can still remember a mother who had a little baby in her arms, who was trying to hit me. The key attacker he singles out is the mother, a woman. Number 4. Why does he think there is more cheating in football today? I think it was obvious. Correct answer A, because football is big business. When asked why, his first and main reason is, I think it's because there is so much money in football today. Option A rephrases this idea perfectly. And number 5. How does he say footballers often cheat? Correct answer A. They fall over when no one has touched them. Why? He explains that the worst kind of cheating today is simulation, which he defines as when a player pretends to have been fouled when in fact he hasn't. Sometimes a player falls over in the penalty area when in fact nobody has touched him. So this matches option A exactly. Moving on to part C. Read sentences 1 to 6 with a partner, not with a partner, but try to do it yourself. Predict what the referee is going to say. Number 1. The most difficult thing for him about being a referee is to make the during a match. 2. One of the reasons it's difficult is because football today is very Number 3. Making correct decisions often depends on the referee's interpretation of the. Number 4. He thinks that players who cheat are the. Number 5. A study that was done on Leo Messi showed that he could run exceptionally fast. Number 6. He thinks Messi isn't a footballer. There must be an adjective there. So, first try to predict what you're going to hear. Then just listen and check your ideas. It's a quite simple task actually. But if you can't predict anything, don't worry. Just listen and try to understand the details from the audio.
(5.10) Part 2.
What's the most difficult thing about being a referee?
The most difficult thing is to make the right decisions during a match. It's difficult because you have to make decisions when everything's happening so quickly. Football today is very fast. You must remember that everything is happening at 100 kilometers an hour. Also, important decisions often depend on the referee's interpretation of the rules. Things aren't black and white. And of course, making decisions would be much easier if players didn't cheat.
Do you think that the idea of fair play doesn't exist anymore?
Not at all. On the contrary, I think fair play does exist. The players who cheat are the exceptions.
Finally, who was the best player you ever saw in your career as a referee?
I have to say Leo Messi.
Why is he special for you?
Well, a study was done on him which showed that Messi could run faster with the ball than many footballers can do without the ball. But apart from his great ability, what I've always admired about him is that he isn't a typical superstar footballer. In public and in his personal life, his behaviour has always been very normal. That's unusual for such a famous player.
Now listen to the audios and read the scripts. Then we translate them.
5.9. Part 1.
What made you want to become a referee?
Mi padre fue árbitro, pero eso no me influenció.
My father was a referee, but that didn't influence me. In fact, the opposite, because I saw all the problems that he had as a referee. But as a child, I was always attracted by the idea. And at school, I used to referee all kinds of sports. Basketball, handball, volleyball, and of course football. I was invited to join the Referees Federation when I was only 14 years old.
Were you good at sport yourself?
Yes, I was a very good handball player. People often think that referees become referees because they're frustrated sportsmen. But this is just not true in most cases, in my experience.
What was the most exciting match you ever refereed?
It's difficult to choose one match as the most exciting, but I remember some of the Real Madrid-Barcelona matches. For example, the first one I ever refereed. The atmosphere was incredible in the stadium. But really, it's impossible to pick just one. There have been so many.
What was the worst experience you ever had as a referee?
The worst? Well, that was something that happened very early in my career. I was only 16, and I was refereeing a match in a town in Spain, and the home team lost. After the match, I was attacked and injured by the players of the home team and by the spectators. After all these years, I can still remember a mother who had a little baby in her arms who was trying to hit me. She was so angry with me that she nearly dropped her baby. That was my worst moment, and it nearly made me stop being a referee.
Do you think that there's more cheating in football than in the past?
Yes, I think so.
Why?
I think it's because there's so much money in football today that it's become much more important to win. Also, football is much faster than it used to be, so it's much more difficult for referees to detect cheating.
How do footballers cheat?
Oh, there are many ways. But for me, the worst thing in football today is what we call simulation. Simulation is when a player pretends to have been fouled when in fact he hasn't. For example, sometimes a player falls over in the penalty area, when in fact nobody has touched him. And this can result in the referee giving a penalty when it wasn't a penalty. In my opinion, when a player does this, he's cheating not only the referee, not only the players of the other team, but also the spectators, because spectators pay money to see a fair contest.
5.10. Part 2.
What's the most difficult thing about being a referee?
The most difficult thing is to make the right decisions during a match. It's difficult because you have to make decisions when everything's happening so quickly. Football today is very fast. You must remember that everything is happening at 100 kilometres an hour. Also, important decisions often depend on the referee's interpretation of the rules. Things aren't black and white. And of course, making decisions would be much easier if players didn't cheat.
Do you think that the idea of fair play doesn't exist anymore?
Not at all. On the contrary, I think fair play does exist. The players who cheat are the exceptions.
Finally, who was the best player you ever saw in your career as a referee?
I have to say Leo Messi.
Why is he special for you?
Well, a study was done on him which showed that Messi could run faster with the ball than many footballers can do without the ball. But apart from his great ability, what I've always admired about him is that he isn't a typical superstar footballer. In public and in his personal life, his behaviour has always been very normal. That's unusual for such a famous player.
Интервью с судьей. Часть первая. What made you want to become a referee? Это можно перевести как «что заставило вас стать судьей», это дословно, или «как так сложилось, что вы стали судьей». Он отвечает: «Мой отец был судьей, и это никак на меня не повлияло». Didn't influence me. В действительности, напротив, потому что я увидел все проблемы, которые у него были в качестве судьи. Но когда я был ребенком, то есть в качестве ребенка, мне всегда, то есть я был всегда привлечен идеей, и в школе, то есть я что-то делал в прошлом, я судил все виды спортов. Баскетбол, гандбол, волейбол и, конечно же, футбол. Меня приглашали, вот это пассив, I was invited, то есть меня приглашали, то есть вступить в Федерацию судей, когда мне было только 14 лет. Так, а у вас хорошо получалось в спорте? Имеется в виду, или были ли вы хороши в спорте сами по себе? Да, я был очень хорошим гандбольным игроком или игроком в гандбол. Люди часто думают, что если судьи становятся судьями, просто потому что они, то есть как бы неудачливые спортсмены или расстроенные спортсмены. Но это на самом деле неправда в большинстве случаев. И, так, in most cases, just is not true. Да, это неправда в большинстве случаев и в моем опыте. А какой был самый классный матч или самый необычный матч вы когда-либо судили? Он отвечает. На самом деле это тяжело выбрать один матч, самый необычный, самый прикольный. Я помню кое-что из Реал Мадрид-Барселона матчей, то есть вот из этих серий матчей. Например, первый, который я вообще когда-либо судил. Атмосфера была просто необычная, замечательная на стадионе. Но вообще-то, по правде, это невозможно выбрать один. There have been so many, то есть их было так много. Но дальше спрашивают, а какой был самый худший ваш опыт в качестве судьи? Самый худший? Это было, что случилось со мной, в начале моей карьеры. I was only 16, мне было только 16, и я судил матч, получается, в городе, в Испании, и вот команда, которая, играла дома, домашняя команда, дословно проиграла. И после матча я был атакован, и, получается, мне нанесли увечья, получается, я был атакован и поврежден игроками домашней команды и зрителями. И после всех этих лет я могу все еще вспомнить маму, которая имела маленького ребенка на ее руках, которая пыталась меня ударить. То есть вот такой момент. Дальше идет she. Она была настолько, зла на меня, что она, практически уронила своего ребенка. Это был самый худший момент, и это вот практически заставило меня, то есть уйти из судейства или остановить быть судьей. А как вы думаете, существует больше, не то чтобы читинга, но жульничества в футболе, чем в прошлом? Да, я так думаю. А почему? Я думаю, это потому, что теперь так много денег в футболе сегодня, что это стало, наиболее важно выиграть. К тому же футбол теперь быстрее, чем он был раньше, и сложнее для судей, detect cheating, то есть имеется в виду это жульничество заметить. А как футболисты могут жульничать? Это много способов. Но для меня самая худшая вещь в футболе сегодня — это когда мы называем симуляция. Симуляция — это когда игрок притворяется, что, to have been fouled, то есть имеется в виду, что случился фол, когда в действительности, ничего страшного с ним не случилось, имеется в виду. Например, иногда игрок падает в территории пенальти, когда в действительности никто его вообще и не трогал. И это может быть результатом... не то что результатом, это может как бы повлиять на судейство, то есть не давание, но пусть будет то, что давать пенальти, когда на самом деле там не было пенальти. Тут, чтобы перевести, нужно немножко разбираться в футболе. Здесь есть такой, конечно... сложная сторона такая есть. По моему мнению, когда игрок делает это, он жульничает не только по отношению к судье, но и по отношению к игрокам и другой команды. И не только по отношению игрокам к другой команде, но по отношению к зрителям. Потому что зрители платят деньги, чтобы увидеть, a fair contest — это честное соревнование, то есть честный поединок. Это первая часть. Дальше идет часть 2. А какая самая сложная вещь в том, чтобы быть судьей? Самая сложная вещь — это чтобы принимать правильные решения во время матча. Это сложно, потому что вам нужно делать решения, когда все случается так быстро. Футбол сегодня очень быстрый вид спорта. Вы должны помнить, что все случается, получается, в 100 км в час. К тому же важные решения часто зависят от интерпретации, как судья интерпретирует правила. Вещи, которые, знаете, такие вещи, которые не черно-белые, то есть там есть какие-то грани. И, конечно же, принимать решения было бы легче, если бы игроки не жульничали. Так, как вы думаете, что идея честной игры не существует больше? Да и вовсе нет. Напротив, я думаю, честная игра существует. Игроки, которые жульничают, они, скорее всего, exceptions — это исключение из правил. Или исключение. И, наконец-то, кто был самый лучший игрок, который вы когда-либо видели в своей карьере в качестве судьи? Я вынужден сказать, то есть можно так перевести, я вынужден сказать, что это Лео Месси. А что такого особенного в нем для вас? Исследование было проведено на нем, которое показало, что Месси мог бежать быстрее с мячом, чем многие футболисты могут делать это без мяча. Но помимо этого, помимо вот этой его замечательной способности, что я всегда восхищался про него, так это то, что он нетипичная футбольная суперзвезда. То есть на публике, при общественности, на публике, в его личной жизни, его поведение всегда было обычным. И это очень необычно для таких известных игроков. То есть вот такое вот интервью. Что ж, надеюсь, какие-то моменты теперь прояснились. Давайте двигаться дальше. Another discussion is coming. E. Ask and answer the questions in small groups or with yourself. Okay, what are topics? It's not about what do you like doing in your free time. Yeah, let me say something, then you'll do the same. Okay, number 1. Do you agree with the referee that fair play exists and cheaters are the exception? I don't know. Professional sport can be a dirty business. Yeah, people try to win at any cost. But my statement is, I think I'm exaggerating a bit because anyway, people prefer watching fair contests, without cheating. Crowds and spectators are the main source of money for sport. So, if they want to see fair contests, then the people who organize contests have to follow that. However, I believe in one thing. To win World Cups and major contests, to be, top number 1, you often have to cheat. But I'm not talking about, simple cheating. It's about profound, subtle, unnoticeable cheating, which can be a form of art. Because if you get caught, your reputation will be destroyed, squashed. So I think it's 50-50. It's very hard to say for sure. Number 2. Are there any sports people in your country well known for cheating? If I knew, I would say, but I have no idea. I think they definitely exist. It's almost by default. There are such people everywhere, I think. But I can't name any particular sports people. Number 3. Does new technology like VAR make a referee's job easier or more difficult? It depends. Of course, cameras are everywhere. They film everything. And it's easier now to justify your decisions, to prove you were right, so that people can't argue with you, kind of. So in that way it helps, but it also adds some extra pressure because every decision is analyzed in slow motion. Number 4. Would you like to be a sports referee? I don't think so. It's more interesting than thousands of other jobs, of course, but since we don't have perfect jobs at all, they all have their cons, downsides, and so on, and stressful parts. I would say it's not my thing. And speaking of sports, I would prefer actually to train people to be a coach rather than make decisions and judge someone's performance and actions. Okay, so that's my opinion. Now try to say at least a few words about each topic. Good luck. Grammar, past tenses. A. Read the article about Alistair Brownlee. What did he do? Actually, read the article and then answer this question. Try to add as many details as possible. Alistair sacrifices gold to help his brother. Nobody will remember who won the World Triathlon in Cozumel, Mexico in 2016. Instead, they will remember the sacrifice of Alistair Brownlee, who stopped to help his brother Johnny instead of winning the gold medal himself. As Johnny 26 entered the last kilometer of the 10-kilometer run, he was winning by a long way. He'd gone very fast in the swimming and cycling stages. But then he began to feel ill, because he hadn't drunk enough in the hot conditions, and he stopped at the side of the road. His brother, Alistair, was running behind him, but when he saw that Johnny had stopped, he didn't run past him to win the race. Instead, in a wonderful act of brotherly love, he took his brother's arm and helped him to run the final few hundred meters. Seconds before they reached the finishing line, South African Henry Schumann, who had been behind them until then, ran past them both and won the gold medal. Alistair said, "It was a natural human reaction to my brother, but for anyone, I would have done the same thing." He helped his brother, and as a result, he didn't win the race. It's a short summary. And here is a proof from the article. What did he do? This shows he helped his brother. The article says he stopped running, put his arm around his brother, and almost carried him to the finish line. This is a clear act of helping. Yep. And number 2, what was the result? This shows he didn't win the race. The article says another athlete who was behind them ran past and won the race. It also says the final result. Alistair finished third. So, simple logic. Before helping, Alistair was in first place and was going to win. After helping, he was in third place. He lost the first position because he stopped. Okay, you can see the connection in the text. His action, helping, directly caused the result, losing the race. Okay, part B. Paragraph 2 tells the story of what happened. Most of the verbs are past simple, but there are 2 examples of the past continuous and 4 of the past perfect. Can you find them? Why are they used? So, read this paragraph again, scan for tenses, then try to explain why they were used. We'll discuss it later. Okay, past continuous, he was winning, his brother Alistair was running. And past perfect, he had gone very fast, he hadn't drunk enough, Johnny had stopped, who had been behind them. I hope you remember a little bit about them. Yeah, the past continuous verbs show that these actions were in progress when the main events happened. They weren't finished. And the past perfect verbs show that these things happened before the main events in the story. Okay, it was just a bit of warming up. Move on to the grammar part, past tenses. First, listen to the examples given here.
5.11.
They were in Mexico in 2016.
A South African won the race.
The plane didn't arrive on time.
What time did you get up this morning?
When I lived in Paris, I often went to watch Paris Saint-Germain.
5.12. 1.
What were you doing at 6 o'clock last night?
2.
I was driving along the motorway when it started snowing.
3.
While I was doing the housework, The children were playing in the garden.
4.
It was a cold night and it was raining. I was watching TV in the living room.
5.13.
When they turned on the TV, the match had already finished.
As soon as I shut the door, I realised that I'd left my keys on the table.
We couldn't get a table in the restaurant because we hadn't booked.
5.14.
It was a cold night and it was raining. I was watching TV in the living room. Suddenly I heard a knock at the door. I got up and opened the door. But there was nobody there. The person who had knocked on the door had disappeared.
Now I'm going to read out loud these examples for you, or these rules for you. Okay, past simple, continuous, perfect. Let's start with the past simple. Worked, stopped, went, had, etc. They were in Mexico in 2016. A South African won the race. The plane didn't arrive on time. What time did you get up this morning? When I lived in Paris, I often went to watch Paris Saint-Germain. Sorry, maybe I mispronounced it. Okay, we use the past simple for finished actions in the past when we say ask or know when they happened. We can also use it for repeated actions in the past, like past habits. And remember irregular verbs. Yeah, go, went, take, took, have, had, and there are more. Okay, next is past continuous. Was, were, plus verb, plus ing. What were you doing at 6 o'clock last night? I was driving along the motorway when it started snowing. While I was doing the housework, the children were playing in the garden. It was a cold night and it was raining. I was watching TV in the living room. So we use the past continuous to talk about an action in progress at a specific time in the past. Remember, we don't use the past continuous with non-action verbs. So you can't say, we stopped at the garage because we were needing petrol. You can't use the verb need in progress. Okay, number 2. We often use the past continuous to describe a past action in progress which was interrupted by another action, expressed in the past simple. The two actions are usually linked by when or as. Number 3. We often use the past continuous with while for two actions happening at the same time. And number 4. We often use the past continuous to describe what's happening at the beginning of a story or anecdote. Something like that. And finally, past perfect, your favorite tense. Yep, had plus past participle. When they turned on the TV, the match had already finished. As soon as I shut the door, I realized that I'd left my keys on the table. We couldn't get a table in the restaurant because we hadn't booked. So we use the past perfect when we are talking about the past and we want to talk about an earlier past action. So compare. When John arrived, they went out. So first, John arrived and then they went out. It's a sequence. But when John arrived, they had gone out, so they went out before John arrived. Something like that. And using narrative tenses together. It was a cold night and it was raining. I was watching TV in the living room. Suddenly I heard a knock at the door. I got up and opened the door, but there was nobody there. The person who had knocked on the door had disappeared. So we use the past continuous was raining, was watching to set the scene. We use the past simple heard, got up, etc. to say what happened. And we use the past perfect had knocked, had disappeared to say what happened before the previous past action. By the way, if it's important to mention. Because sometimes you can use the past simple instead of it. Look, this time, these rules, I think, are clear enough. And instead of looking at more examples, let's just dive into grammar exercises. But before, I will translate these rules for my Russian-speaking audience. If you don't need it, just skip it and go to the exercise part. Итак, пару слов про прошлые времена. Если вы уже заканчивали курс про Intermediate, вам наверняка знакомы эти времена. Simple, Continuous and Perfect. Past Simple, Past Continuous, Past Perfect. Past Simple должен быть очень хорошо знакомым, потому что мы с ним работали постоянно. Past Continuous встречался пару раз. Это у нас процессы в прошлом. И Past Perfect, там буквально один крошечный юнит был посвящен этому времени. Но все же, все начинается, конечно, с Past Simple. Надеюсь, он не сильно нуждается в пояснении, потому что это was, were, вторые формы, окончание did, didn't. Это, по сути, действия, которые случились в прошлом. Тут так и написано, мы используем past simple для законченных действий в прошлом. Когда мы говорим, спрашиваем или знаем когда-то, что случилось, есть привязка ко времени. Или мы также это используем для каких-то повторяющихся действий в прошлом. Так, помните про неправильные глаголы, их огромный список, их приходится учить и использовать вторые формы. Здесь вот такой вот момент. По поводу past continuous. Если это у нас законченные действия, past continuous — это просто незаконченные действия, то есть действия, которые были в процессе. То есть чем вы занимались 6 часов прошлым вечером, то есть в процессе чего вы были. То есть я ехал вдоль шоссе, когда начался снег. То есть когда начался снег, что я делал? Я ехал. Или пока я делал дела по дому, дети играли в саду. То есть два действия происходило одновременно, но ни вот это не было закончено. Или это была прохладная ночка и шел дождь. Я смотрел телевизор в гостиной комнате. Здесь с помощью вот этого времени мы как бы обрисовываем сцену, что происходило. То есть была холодная ночка, шел дождь, я смотрел телевизор, то есть что происходило в этот момент. И, соответственно, мы используем past continuous, чтобы разговаривать про какое-то действие в процессе в какой-то определенный момент времени в прошлом. И помните, что мы не используем вот это время past continuous, получается у нас non-action verbs. Это группа глаголов, которые не могут быть в процессе. Мы их уже разбирали в части, когда мы сравнивали present simple и present continuous, то есть в настоящем. То есть нельзя сказать we stopped at the garage because we were needing petrol. Слово need, оно у нас может быть только во временах simple. То есть we needed petrol. Там должно быть. Второе. Мы часто используем past continuous, чтобы описать какое-то действие в прошлом в процессе, которое было прервано другим действием, которое обычно выражается в past simple. Или два действия связанные... обычно такие действия связываются с такими союзами, как when или as. В основном when. То есть я делал что-то, когда вот это вот случилось. Я шел по улице, когда начался дождь. Или я ехал на машине, когда я увидел зебру. Это вот такие вот действия. Дальше мы используем past continuous со словом while. Это while в то время как, когда два действия происходили в одно и то же время. Пока я делал дела по дому, дети играли в саду. Так тоже можно. И мы часто используем past continuous, чтобы описать, что происходило в начале истории, или anecdotes — это тоже, собственно говоря, история жизни. Когда мы говорим, обрисовываем сцену еще раз, что происходило. То есть кто-то вот этим занимался, вот этот процесс шел. Да, в принципе, чтобы показать, что действия были в процессе в этот момент. Поэтому держим в уме, что past simple — это какое-то законченное действие, то есть сделал, побыл, сходил. За исключением того, что оно может еще и применяться для повторяющихся действий. А past continuous — это что-то, что показывает процесс, длительность, то есть это действие было не закончено. Итак, теперь past perfect. Это, наверное, самое сложное, потому что не так уж много было уделено этому времени. Собственно, мы используем past perfect, когда мы говорим про прошлое, и мы хотим сказать, что какое-то действие в цепочке событий, оно случилось раньше всех. И дословно, когда мы что-то хотим прям либо сакцентировать на чем-то внимание, либо указать, что вот это действие было раньше всех, и это важно показать. Здесь написано «сравните». Когда Джон прибыл, они вышли. То есть имеется в виду, Джон приехал, только потом они пошли гулять. А здесь when John arrived, they had gone out. То есть когда Джон приехал, они уже гуляли. То есть вот это действие было совершено до этого. То есть они вышли когда-то давно, а потом уже Джон приехал. То есть вот такой вот момент. И что здесь показывается? Когда они включили телевизор, матч уже закончился. То есть матч уже давным-давно закончился, только потом они включили телевизор. Здесь важно это показать, что им не удалось посмотреть. Кстати, часто мы используем past perfect, чтобы объяснять какую-то причину, почему что-то произошло. Как только я закрыл дверь, я осознал, что я оставил ключи на столе. То есть здесь такой момент мы прям подчеркиваем, что я оставил ключи на столе, и только потом это понял, осознал. Такие ситуации тоже часто встречаются с past perfect. Ну и здесь то же самое практически, что мы не могли получить столик в ресторане, потому что мы не бронировали заранее. То есть у нас на тот момент, когда мы пришли в ресторан, не было брони, потому что мы заранее этого не сделали. Хотя, если честно, если заменить здесь вот это past simple, ничего прям критичного не будет, но здесь все-таки лучше указать этот момент. И что ж, у нас теперь вот такая вот вещь есть. Использовать времена narrative, это как бы рассказ, то есть времена рассказа, времена истории вместе. Ну и что здесь у нас написано? То есть это был холодный вечер и шел дождь. Я смотрел телевизор, внезапно я услышал, как постучали в дверь. Я встал и открыл дверь. Но там никого не было. Человек, который постучал, то есть это действие произошло заранее, мы причем еще на него делаем акцент здесь. Человек, который постучал в дверь, он исчез. То есть к тому моменту, как этот человек подошел к двери, уже, соответственно, тот человек, который стучал, уже исчез. Такой вот момент. Ну и, соответственно, мы используем past continuous, чтобы как обрисовать сцену. Мы используем past simple, просто сказать, что что-то произошло. Вот это произошло, вот это произошло, вот это не произошло и так далее. А вот мы используем past perfect, чтобы сказать, что что-то произошло раньше всего остального. То есть и это важно прям показать в истории, что что-то случилось раньше. Это особенно полезно, когда у нас куча каких-то событий, и их нужно как-то вот структурировать. Итак, по сути, вот они все правила past tenses. Оно больше запоминается через практику, нежели через правила. То есть, да, вы можете сейчас посмотреть кучу примеров, но лучше сразу перейти к практике, не ошибаться, посмотреть и плюс-минус уже сложить собственную картинку. Давайте приступать к упражнениям. Okay, the tasks are very clear. In part A, you circle the correct form, use your intuition here. In part B, you complete with the past simple, past continuous, and past perfect. Then listen to me doing these exercises and check yourself. Now it's time to check, be prepared for a long journey. So when the teacher collected the exam papers, he saw that Robbie had cheated. Actually, both actions, collecting papers and cheating, are in the past. But if we say cheated, it might sound like he cheated at the same time the teacher collected them. To stress that cheating happened first, we use had cheated here. Number 1. They didn't play well in the match, although they had trained every evening. The training was finished before the match. To stress this order, so training, match, we use had trained. If we say were training, it sounds like the training was happening at the same time as the match, which is wrong. Number 2. Mike had an accident as he was cycling to work. The accident happened in the middle of the action. I think it's clear here why. Number 3. I left work early because I wanted to watch the match. So, want is not an action like run, play. We don't say was wanting. We use wanted. It's a non-action verb. Number 4. There was a lot of traffic, and when we arrived, the match had already started. Okay, why? It's the obvious one. Already is a big clue. It tells us the start happened before our arrival. So we need had started here, had already started. Next is number 5. The captain hadn't scored any goals when the referee sent him off. This is about his total situation before the red card. To stress that from the start of the game until the red card, his goal count was 0. We use hadn't scored. It shows the reason for his frustration, so to speak. Next is number 6. My son got injured while he was playing basketball last Saturday. While tells us it happened during the action. So we use was playing here. Number 7. When the snowstorm started, we stopped skiing and went back to the hotel. This is a story, like first storm started. Right after, we stopped. For actions that come one after another, we use the past simple or simple past. Next is 8. England hadn't lost any of their previous games when they played in the quarterfinals. Previous games means all games before the quarterfinal. To stress this about the past before another past moment, we use hadn't lost. We need just to stress it. Number 9. The referee suspended the match because it was raining. The rain was happening at that moment. We use was raining for weather in progress. So now let's read the answer keys. When the teacher collected the exam papers, he saw that Robbie had cheated. They didn't play well in the match, although they had trained every evening. Mike had an accident as he was cycling to work. I left work early because I wanted to watch the match. There was a lot of traffic, and when we arrived, the match had already started. The captain hadn't scored any goals when the referee sent him off. My son got injured while he was playing basketball last Saturday. When the snowstorm started, we stopped skiing and went back to the hotel. England hadn't lost any of their previous games when they played in the quarterfinals. The referee suspended the match because it was raining so hard. So that's all. Let's move on to part B. Maybe I need to do it like this. Yeah, I think it will be better. So complete with the past simple, past continuous, or past perfect. Here is the example. The marathon runner was sweating when she crossed the finish line. You can imagine it. She was sweating at this time when she crossed the finish line. This action happened once. This was in progress. Okay, number 1. The accident happened when they were driving home. It's a short event. It's the action in progress. So that's why we use these tenses. Number 2. The crowd was cheering when the referee blew the final whistle. Actually, it's the same like in the first one. The crowd kind of was cheering. It was in progress when the referee interrupted this action, blew the final whistle. It happened once. It was in progress. Number 3. I didn't recognize Jane at first because she had changed so much. So first she changed a lot, and then in the past I didn't recognize her. This action happened first. Next is, the police stopped my sister on the motorway because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. So main action stopped, and the reason was because she wasn't wearing. Number 5. Some of the players weren't listening while the coach was talking to them. This one is easy actually. There are 2 actions that were happening at the same time. So some of the players weren't listening when? While the coach was talking. So this action was incomplete and this action was incomplete. They both kind of were in progress. Number 6. We couldn't use the ski slope because it hadn't snowed enough. Here we need to show the reason. We couldn't ski. Why? Or we couldn't use the ski, sorry. Why? Because before that day, week or so, it had not snowed enough. The lack of snow was the earlier cause. And here we need to put some extra stress on it. Number 7. They weren't able to play tennis because they hadn't booked a court. Hadn't booked. So here again, we need to show the reason they couldn't play. Why? Because earlier they had not booked a court. The booking or not booking needed to happen first. And finally, the player got a yellow card because he had taken off his shirt after scoring a goal. Okay, this one is tricky. So why? The referee gave the card after the player took off his shirt. To stress this order, first take off shirt, then get card, and show the clear reason for the card, we use here had taken off. It is something like that. Now let's read the answer keys. The marathon runner was sweating when she crossed the finish line. The accident happened when they were driving home. The crowd was cheering when the referee blew the final whistle. I didn't recognize Jane at first because she had changed so much. The police stopped my sister on the motorway because she wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Some of the players weren't listening while the coach was talking to them. We couldn't use the ski slope because it hadn't snowed enough. They weren't able to play tennis because they hadn't booked a court. The player got a yellow card because he had taken off his shirt after scoring a goal. If you had a lot of mistakes here, please don't worry about them, because this exact topic of past tenses, of the past simple, past continuous, or past perfect, when we use them all together and so on, it's very, very difficult. Actually, we need more practice. So let's move on. There is extra grammar practice. You're going to complete this story using the verbs and brackets in the past simple, past continuous, or past perfect. Write down your answers somewhere and then listen to me and check. Okay, my car nightmare. First I'm going to do the verbs in brackets and then I will explain why. So, this story just happened to me one really hot summer about 5 years ago. It's probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me while driving a car. My car the week before, so it happened first. I had bought my car the week before and I was still feeling very excited about it. It didn't have air conditioning, but that did not matter to me because it was my first ever car. I knew that my best friend Penny had always wanted to visit a picturesque little village in the mountains about 150 kilometers or kilometers from where we live. So I called her and told her that I would take her there the following day. It was a perfect hot summer day. The sun was shining. and the sky was blue. While I was driving and we were chatting, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was a wasp which had flown into the car. Penny and I both tried to kill the wasp, which then started buzzing around inside the car. Suddenly the wasp disappeared. Then I felt a pain in my arm. The wasp had stung me. I forgot that I was driving, and bang, I crashed into the car in front of us. Nobody was hurt, but that was the end of our day out. And look, I know it's very, very confusing, but don't worry, let's try to understand it. And we'll start with the very, very first thing here. Happened. Actually, it's a finished past event, kind of your main story tense. Happened. Next is, I had bought. You see, the story happens about 5 years ago, but buying the car happened even earlier, the week before that story. So first I bought it, then the story happened. Was still feeling. This describes my ongoing state or feeling at that time in the story. Didn't have. It's a simple fact about the car in the past. Did not matter. Just a state or opinion in the past, nothing more. Next is I knew. It's a past state of knowing, so why not? And here you see had always wanted. Had always wanted to visit a picturesque village. So her desire, wanting, existed before I had the idea to call her. It was her long-standing wish leading up to that moment. So I called, the next main action in the story sequence, and told her another main action happening right after called. Next is it was. It was a perfect hot summer day. We are setting the scene with the past state. The sun was shining. Again, it describes the weather in progress that day, setting the scene again. While I was driving and we were chatting, I saw 2 long actions happening at the same time in the past, and while is the key word for this. Then comes I saw, a short completed action that interrupts the driving and chatting. It was a wasp which had flown into the car, so the flying in happened before I saw it. The sequence is, first wasp flies in, the second one I see it, so we use past perfect for step 1, had flown. Just tried. The next main action in the story, and so on, it's just to continue. Started. Another main event in the sequence, and then it's a clue here. Suddenly the wasp disappeared. A sudden completed event in the story. Then I felt, again then, the next thing that happened. The wasp had stung me. The stinging happened first, then I felt the pain. To show this order clearly, we use had stung for the first action, because it happened first. Then I felt it, And finally, I was driving. This was the ongoing action I was supposed to be doing at that moment. I crashed. The final disastrous main event of the story. The final one in the sequence, so it's just the past simple. Okay, now look, I'm going to read the whole story one more time. Listen to it and try to kind of get your own picture how to use these narrative tenses. Okay. My car nightmare. This story happened to me one really hot summer about 5 years ago. It's probably the worst thing that's ever happened to me while driving a car. I had bought my car the week before, and I was still feeling very excited about it. It didn't have air conditioning, but that did not matter to me because it was my first ever car. I knew that my best friend Penny had always wanted to visit a picturesque little village in the mountains, about 150 kilometers from where we live. So I called her and told her that I would take her there the following day. It was a perfect hot summer day. The sun was shining and the sky was blue. While I was driving and we were chatting, I saw something out of the corner of my eye. It was a wasp which had flown into the car. Penny and I both tried to kill the wasp, which then started buzzing around inside the car. Suddenly, the wasp disappeared. Then I felt a pain in my arm. The wasp had stung me. I forgot that I was driving, and bang, I crashed into the car in front of us. Nobody was hurt, but that was the end of our day out. I can't say that it was a really difficult exercise, but it was a quite difficult exercise. Actually, I think we need more practice. And because of that, let's move on. Part D. Read the article about Anton Gafarov. Complete it with the verbs in the correct tense. Again, past simple, past continuous, or past perfect. Canada to the rescue. Okay, one more time. Why not? Do it, then check. Canada to the rescue. Russian cross-country skier Anton Gafarov was competing in the Sochi Winter Olympics in 2014. He was doing well in the race when he fell and damaged his left ski. Soon after that, he fell again. He realized that his ski had broken into 2 pieces. He tried to continue on one ski when suddenly the Canadian ski coach Justin Wedsworth ran out of the crowd and replaced Gafarov's broken ski with a spare one that he had brought for his own team. Gafarov finished the race in front of his home crowd. Now get ready for the most important tasks ever for improving your speaking. Let's practice retelling the stories. It's when you read something and then say what you've read. Don't worry, there will be some prompts that help you a lot. Let's do it in a classic way, kind of student A part. Read your story and underline any verbs in the past continuous or past perfect. Your first task is to read and to spot these 2 tenses in the text. So now try to spot past continuous and past perfect tenses. Story A. A Kenyan runner called Abel Mutai was competing in a cross-country race in Spain in 2012. He was winning the race easily, but he stopped running about 30 meters before the finishing line. He thought he'd won the race. The crowd were shouting at him. They were telling him to carry on, but he didn't understand them because he didn't speak any Spanish. A Spanish runner, Ivan Fernandez, was second in the race behind Mutai, and he slowed down and told Mutai to keep running. Mutai started running again and crossed the line first. "I did what I had to do," said Fernandez. He was the rightful winner. Story A. A Kenyan runner called Abel Mutai was competing in a cross-country race in Spain in 2012. He was winning the race easily, but he stopped running about 30 meters before the finishing line. He thought he'd won the race. The crowd were shouting at him. They were telling him to carry on, but he didn't understand them because he didn't speak any Spanish. A Spanish runner, Ivan Fernandez, was second in the race behind Mutai, and he slowed down and told Mutai to keep running. Mutai started running again and crossed the line first. "I did what I had to do," said Fernandez. He was the rightful winner. Part B. Cover your story and tell it to be using the verb prompts and the list in the correct tenses. Okay, just try to do the retelling, then I'll give you an example. Okay, my retelling. A Kenyan runner called Abel Mutai was competing in a cross-country race in Spain. He was winning the race easily, but he stopped running because he thought he had won. The crowd were shouting at him. They were telling him to carry on, but Mutai didn't understand them because he did not speak Spanish. Another runner, Ivan Fernandez, was second in the race. When he saw Mutai, he slowed down and told Mutai to keep running. So Mutai started running again and crossed the line first. Something like that. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Again, you read the story and underline any verbs in the past continuous or past perfect. Actually, the task is it's the same as the previous one, so first work with tenses. Story B. A Canadian sailor called Lawrence Lemieux was competing in the Seoul Olympics in 1988. During his race, the weather was terrible. The wind was blowing hard, and the waves were high. Lemieux was in second place in the race when he saw that two sailors from Singapore had fallen out of their boat and couldn't get back in. He went to help them, pulled them from the water, and waited for another boat to come and help them. Then he continued the race. He didn't win a silver medal. In the end, he came 22nd. But, as Lemieux said, the first rule of sailing is, if you see someone in trouble, you help him. Story B. A Canadian sailor called Lawrence Lemieux was competing in the Seoul Olympics in 1988. During his race, the weather was terrible. The wind was blowing hard, and the waves were high. Lemieux was in second place in the race when he saw that two sailors from Singapore had fallen out of their boat and couldn't get back in. He went to help them, pulled them from the water, and waited for another boat to come and help them. Then he continued the race. He didn't win a silver medal. In the end, he came 22nd. But, as Lemieux said, the first rule of sailing is, if you see someone in trouble, you help him. Now, the story is covered. You can't see it. Try to retell this story by using these prompts. They will help you to retell it. Good luck! There is an example of retelling. Let me say it. You see, a Canadian sailor called Lawrence Lemieux was competing in the Seoul Olympics in 1988. The weather was terrible. The wind was blowing hard and the waves were high. Lemieux was in second place in the race when he saw that two sailors had fallen out of their boat. He immediately went to help them. He pulled them from the water and waited for another boat to come and help them. Okay, and after that, he continued the race. He did not win a medal. In the end, he came 22nd. Something like that. Okay, by the way, you can practice retelling these stories one more time, but if it's enough for you, let's move on. Part F. Which of the 4 stories you've read do you think is the most heroic? Choose which story, Alistair Brownlee, Anton Gafarov, Abel Mutai, or Lawrence Lemieux you think is the most heroic, kind of the bravest one, and explain why. So there are some prompts to help build your answer. Just you can read it and use it in your answer. I don't know, try to say something. Telling an anecdote. Starting an anecdote. Let's read it first. I'm going to tell you about a time when this happened a few years ago, when I was younger, or listening to an anecdote. Wow, really? That sounds terrible, awful. How amazing. What happened next after that in the end? In this case. Okay. By the way, what does anecdote mean in English? An anecdote is a short, interesting or amusing story about a real person or event. You know, it's usually personal and told to make a point or to entertain. First of all, it's not a long story. It's about something that really happened, often about the speaker's own experience, and it's done to illustrate a point, share an experience or entertain. Some examples like my grandfather always tells anecdotes about his time in the army, or she began her speech with a funny anecdote about getting lost on her first day of work. And in our lesson, when we say practice telling anecdotes, it means you will tell short, true stories, about your own lives, in this case. Look, but there is an important thing. Why is this confusing for Russian speakers? My friends, we need to talk about it. This is a very common false friend. Yeah? The Russian word anecdote, it's not the same. It means just a joke. Kind of a short, funny story with a punchline, often fictional and told purely to make people laugh. So, рассказать анекдот, it's just to tell a joke. It's not about an anecdote. The English word anecdote, it's a short, true story from real life. It can be funny, yeah, surprising or interesting, but its main purpose isn't always just, to make people laugh. It's often used to give an example in conversation, something like that. So, the main confusion. A Russian speaker hears, tell an anecdote and thinks, oh, I need to tell a funny joke. They might prepare a standard joke instead of a personal story in this case, so don't confuse these words anecdote and English. An anecdote, they are not the same. Okay, let's move on. Part A. You're going to tell your partner or yourself 2 anecdotes. Choose 2 of the topics below and plan what you're going to say. Ask your teacher for any words you need. Tell your partner about. You know what your teacher thinks you really need. You need to cover all topics or those topics which at least are relatable to you. It means you have something to say. First, I think you will hear 5 example stories. They will help you structure your own stories. Only one thing, these examples are made up. They didn't happen to me. They are not about me. It's not my experience, something like that. I just wanted to take something simpler and clear, because as examples, because my personal anecdotes would be long and scary for you. So first, listen some examples, then say something of your own. Example 1. A really exciting sports event you saw. When and where was it? Who was playing? This happened 2 years ago at my school. It was the final football game of the season. My school team was playing against another school. What happened? Why was it so exciting? It was a very close game. The score was all one for a long time. In the last minute, a player from my school was running toward the goal. He kicked the ball, but it hit the post. Everyone shouted because they thought the game had finished. But another player was standing in the right place. He touched the ball with his head and scored. We won 2-1 in the last seconds. It was so exciting because nobody expected the last goal. All the students were cheering and jumping. I'll never forget that day. Example 2. A time you had an accident or got a sports injury. When and where did it happen? What were you doing? It was during a school football match last autumn. I was playing as a defender, and it was raining, so the ground was very slippery. What part of your body did you hurt? I hurt my ankle badly. What happened next? How long did it take you to recover? I was running to tackle an opponent when my foot slid in the mud. I fell and heard a loud pop. The pain was instant. My teammates called the coach, who drove me to the clinic. The doctor said I had sprained my ankle. I had to wear a bandage for 2 weeks and couldn't play sports for a whole month. It took about 6 weeks to fully recover. Example 3. A time you saw or met someone famous. When was it? Where were you? Who were you with? A couple of summers ago, I was walking through the airport with my family. We were returning from a holiday. What was the celebrity doing? What was she wearing? Suddenly, I saw a famous singer from my country. She was standing in line at a coffee shop. She was wearing simple jeans, a t-shirt and big sunglasses, and she was looking at her phone. Did you speak to her? What happened in the end? I was too nervous to speak, but my little sister wasn't. She walked up and asked for a photo. The singer was really kind. She smiled, took off her sunglasses, and posed with us. After the photo, she said, "Have a safe flight," and walked away. We couldn't believe our luck for the rest of the trip. Example 4. A time you got lost. Where were you going? How were you traveling? I was going to a new shopping mall in another town. I was traveling by bus. Why did you get lost? I was listening to music and watching the scenery, and I missed my stop. When I got off at the next stop, I didn't recognize anything. My phone battery had died, so I couldn't use the map. What happened in the end? I started walking, hoping to find a landmark. I was feeling quite worried. After about 20 minutes, I saw a police officer. I explained my situation and he was very helpful. He drove me to the nearest bus station and showed me the right bus to take. I arrived home 2 hours late, but I was very relieved. Example 5. A time you missed or nearly missed something important. What did you miss or nearly miss? Why? I very nearly missed my final university entrance exam. How did you feel? I was panicking. What happened in the end? The night before, I had set 2 alarms, but my phone ran out of battery. I woke up suddenly and saw it was already 8:30 a.m. The exam started at 9. I jumped out of bed, got dressed in 2 minutes, and ran to the bus stop. I arrived at the exam hall at 8:58 just as they were closing the doors. My heart was beating so fast, but I sat down and took the exam. In the end, I passed. It was the most stressful morning of my life. And finally, let's dive into writing. Again, this section is optional. If you don't feel like writing something, you can skip. If you think it will be necessary for you, stay with me and do some tasks. Part A. A magazine asked its readers to send in stories about the time they had a problem when traveling. Read the story once. I can confuse some proper names. I'm sorry in advance for that. Probably it's pronounced like Begonia. Why did Begonia and her husband get lost? The first question. What else went wrong? So there was another problem. So read and listen, then quickly answer these questions. This happened a few years ago. I live in Alicante in Spain, and my husband and I had rented a house in Galicia for the summer holiday. We were going to drive first to Tarragona to stay for a few days with some friends, and then drive from Tarragona to Galicia. The first part of the journey was fine. We were using our new sat-nav for the first time, and it took us right to the door of our friend's house. 3 days later, we continued our journey. We put in the name of the small town in Galicia, Nigran, which was our final destination. We started off obediently following the instructions. After a while, we realized that, driving west towards Lleida, we were going north. In fact, soon we were quite near Andorra, right on the border with France. I was sure we were going in the wrong direction. My husband wanted to do what the sat-nav was telling us. It was his new toy. It was only when we started seeing mountains that even he admitted this couldn't be the right way. We stopped, got out an old map, and then turned round. We had wasted nearly 2 hours going the wrong direction. It was an awful journey. As well as getting lost, we had another problem. When we were nearly at our destination, we stopped for a coffee at a little bar, but we got back onto the motorway, we realized that we had left our dog under the table in the cafe. For the second time that day, we had to turn around and go back. Luckily, the dog was still there, and luckily, the beginning of our trip was a disaster. We had a wonderful holiday. Correct answers, yeah? First, they got lost because her husband followed the instructions given by the sat-nav, which sent them in the wrong direction. And the answer to the second question, they also left their dog under the table in the cafe on the motorway. That was very sad. Part B. Read the story again and complete the gaps with the connecting word or phrase from the list. Although, as soon as, because, but. However, instead of, so, then, when. Complete the gaps and listen and check everything as usually. This happened a few years ago. I live in Alicante in Spain, and my husband and I had rented a house in Galicia for the summer holiday. We were going to drive first to Tarragona to stay for a few days with some friends, and then drive from Tarragona to Galicia. The first part of the journey was fine. We were using our new sat-nav for the first time, and it took us right to the door of our friend's house. 3 days later, when we continued our journey, we put in the name of the small town in Galicia, Nigran, which was our final destination. We started off obediently following the instructions. However, after a while we realized that instead of driving west towards Lleida, we were going north. In fact, soon we were quite near Andorra, right on the border with France. I was sure we were going in the wrong direction, but my husband wanted to do what the sat-nav was telling us. It was his new toy. It was only when we started seeing mountains that even he admitted this couldn't be the right way. So we stopped, got out an old map, and then turned round. We had wasted nearly 2 hours going in the wrong direction. It was an awful journey, because as well as getting lost, we had another problem. When we were nearly at our destination, we stopped for a coffee at a little bar, but as soon as we got back onto the motorway, we realized that we had left our dog under the table in the cafe. For the second time that day, we had to turn round and go back. Luckily, the dog was still there, and luckily, although the beginning of our trip was a disaster, we had a wonderful holiday. Okay, there are some prompts. Let's read them together. A bad journey. This happened last a few months, years ago. It means when it happened. The first part of the journey was after a while. It was only when we realized that, luckily, in the end, it was an awful, terrible journey. Okay, and the task is write about a journey where you had a problem or invent one, so it means make it up, to send to the magazine. Plan what you're going to write using the paragraph notes below. Use the language from the A bad journey box to help you. Paragraph 1, when was the journey? Where were you going? Who with? Why? Paragraph 2, what problem did you have? What happened? Paragraph 3, what happened in the end? And then check your story for mistakes, grammar, vocabulary, punctuation, and spelling. Okay, as usually, you can choose to skip this writing task if you want, no problem. But if you'd like to practice your English writing skills, this is a great chance to, write about a real or made-up travel story. Use past tenses, past simple, past continuous, past perfect. Practice connecting words like because, but, so, when, and so on, and get better at storytelling in English. So, if you decide to write, here is what to do. Read Begonia's travel problem story first. Use the plan in exercise C, write your own story in short paragraphs, and check your grammar, spelling, punctuation. You can use some AI tools for that. Now it's not a problem. So, it's up to you. Practice writing if you want, skip if you don't. You've made it! Take a look at workbook tasks. They're your wonderful homework. Теперь информация для тех, кто ищет разборы рабочих тетрадей, там, где выполнены все задания и даны мои комментарии. Заходите на любой урок по курсу Intermediate и переходите в описание. В описании первая ссылочка стоит у нас здесь Subscription to Boosty, Workbook Answer, Keys Here. Щелкайте на данную ссылочку и переходите на сайт Boosty. Далее производите регистрацию, то есть любым удобным способом. После этого вы можете оформить любую из данных подписок. В самой первой подписке Student разобраны рабочие тетради. После того, как вы подписываетесь, переходите в главное меню, где есть удобная навигация. Вот здесь English File Elementary, English File Pre-Intermediate, English File Intermediate. В принципе, то, что нам нужно. Щелкайте на данную ссылочку Workbook, вас переносит к данному посту. Там будут даны ссылки на видео с разборами рабочих тетрадей. Они будут постоянно обновляться, то есть выходит новый юнит, автоматически здесь появляются разборы и рабочие тетради. Это поможет вам лучше разобраться в домашней работе, ну а мне в свою очередь поможет продолжать выпускать данные видеоролики, потому что, ребят, честно, без вашей поддержки делать это очень-очень тяжело. Спасибо за внимание. Переходим к заключительному слову. Okay. Great work on completing this unit. Over these lessons, you've built a strong toolkit for talking about sports, sharing stories, and understanding the fascinating psychology behind competition. Remember what you can do now. Use specific sport vocabulary for people, places, and actions. Tell engaging personal stories and anecdotes using narrative tenses, past simple, continuous, and perfect. Correctly, I hope so. And discuss opinions on sportsmanship, fair play, and the role of superstitions. Understand and identify how authors use examples to support their main ideas in texts. Okay, you've seen that sports are about much more than just winning, yeah? They're about psychology, confidence and control, ethics, fair play, and incredible human stories, helping a brother or getting caught cheating. Use the vocabulary and grammar for this unit the next time you watch a game, read a sports article, or tell a friend about something funny or surprising that happened to you. Keep practicing, and well done. And look, as usually, it would be so nice if you support me by putting likes, subscribing to both YouTube and Telegram channels, and the best thing you can do for me is to subscribe on boosty.com, which allows me make more such wonderful lessons. Now, I think that's all for today. Well done. See you on the next video. Bye bye.